I am proud. I'm going to turn this over to Debra Meszaros, who is the ClubMx body performance coach. Everybody can maybe kind of see her. I don't know how her photo looks to you. She's up kind of up in the corner there. You are unmuted. Anyway, she's the body performance coach and nutritionist over at ClubMx, and she's awesome. She's been there from the beginning. She's got a wonderful story. She's done a lot of work with a lot of the top guys, and she knows her stuff. So I thought it would be cool to bring her in and to share her expertise and learn from her. So with this, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Debra.
Oh, Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite and love the fact that I get to participate in the meeting and this YouTube and Zoom meeting. So yeah, let me just, I guess, jump right in since I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to kind of like, I might be talking too fast, but I want to kind of try to get as much as I can in. And I also, we have some questions that were asked in advance. I want to make sure that I at least hit on those points. And then hopefully we have some time left. I want to really leave some time at the end so that if you have any additional questions, you can ask them, and then I'll take it from there. So I guess the very short history about myself. I don't like talking about myself, but I know you want to know probably a little bit about me. So I went to college for natural medicine. I found motocross real late in life at about age of 46. I started riding and racing. Really loved it. I was always into sports, but I really fell in love with motocross. I decided to kind of blend my knowledge of natural medicine and energy medicine with my love of motocross. So I started writing articles for Vital MX, nutrition articles, and Brandon Haas, who is the owner of ClubMx, was reading my articles, really liked what I was writing about because I was approaching basic stuff, but from a totally different angle than most do because of my background. So he invited me down the club as he was getting ready to start it, kick it in and get started up, and came down and been involved now for 10 years. So that's basically how I got to club. And through the working with club now for almost 10 years, there have been so many riders that have come through, and I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to work with them all. And, you know, like from Alex Martin, Nicoletti, Osborne, McAdoo, just the list, Marchbanks. I mean, the list is just, there's just a real extensive list. So as I just want to give you a couple of stories in a way, or just some different information about like how we help riders, you know, get the best. So instead of calling myself a nutritionist, I take it a little bit of a step further, and that's why I say body performance coach. I'm not involved in the actual training, so I don't do, you know, routines in the gym. When we're talking about body performance, we're talking about what you eat and your nutrition and how that affects your body performance, and how we take each individual, and really everyone is on a different program. We don't have a cookie cutter kind of list, these are the 10 things everybody does, because everybody's biochemistry is different. Every single person is different. So to give you an example, like with Osborne, I have a medical device that does scanning of the body. It scans the body's energy, and we're able to learn a lot about the body from the scan. And, you know, with him, I won't go into details, but basically, the many questions that most people have is like, how do I really get lean but strong? How do I lose the weight? But I need the calories because, you know, we're doing all this training. So everyone's thinking that the calories need to be really kicked up. So it's finding that person's metabolism, like where they are in their metabolism. So some people, we're not just talking about slow and fast. We're talking about how they metabolize certain different aspects, like carbohydrates or proteins or fats. So it goes beyond slow and fast, which that does have a bit of, you know, an effect. But it's more detailed than that. It's finding out really how are they processing certain foods or certain food groups. So with him, it was as soon as we fine-tuned what it was and we changed the proportions in the diet, that's when everything really exploded for him. And obviously he's doing really well. Very proud of him. Excellent, excellent job. McElrath, I think, is a really kind of interesting story. When he came, you know, I was so happy to be involved with working with him before Loretta's, and, you know, his whole surprise at Loretta's, where he really got his start in his career. I really enjoyed working with him at like right prior to that time and during that time. But I knew that he was going to be very successful because he just has this he just has this mindset that he'll do anything, you know, and would even eat dirt if he could be a champion. I mean, that's exactly how he was. And he was one of the first riders that I actually sponsored, because when I sat down in the first meeting with him, that's what he was about. And I knew he was definitely going to be successful because he had that mindset. A really cute kind of story. Cameron McAdoo, happy, just thrilled to be involved in his development as well. What I really loved was an incident that happened. He was very, very on top of his nutrition, really trying to fine tune things. But he thought he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. And one day, me and Brandon, the owner of the club, kind of figured something's not right. So we actually raided his RV. So we just bust into his RV and we're like opening up the cabinets and like pulling all these things out of the cabinets. We're like, no, you can't eat this. No, you can't eat that. And we're just, and he's just like, why? What's wrong with granola? And we're like, no. And so it just was interesting that, you know, that's what we did. And he has expressed to people at the club, to me numerous times, that was actually the turning point in his career. That as soon as that we really tweaked that's when things really started happening for him. So there's just a few examples there, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, but just to give you an idea of the kind of things that we do at club. So I want to talk about energy. So everybody wants more energy. There isn't anyone on the planet that's not trying to have more energy from a performance standpoint. In that athletes want, you know, stamina. They want endurance. They want as much energy as possible. So one of the questions that we had gotten is kind of relates to exactly what my first subject's going to be. And the question was, and I'm going to read it exactly: how do I eat enough food to sustain energy, yet maintain my current weight or possibly lose a few pounds in the process? So first of all, it's not about calories. So there's a lot of what we do that, like, all those myths just kind of go out the window. It's not really about counting the calories. It's more about the quality of the food and the timing of the food. And that's what's taught. That's part of what I do in my program, is to teach you really what to eat when, because that is the most important thing. And if you kind of follow some of the basic rules that we have, you really won't overeat. And if you're eating the right foods at the right time, your body is just naturally going to be lean. It's going to fall in the range where it needs to be. So we never want to eat foods we always want to eat foods that give us energy. So we don't want to eat foods that have to take the body's energy to make more energy. So that's a real key to stamina and have that sustained energy. So we really don't have a lot of time today.
What were a couple of those foods, Deborah? I'm sorry to jump in, that kind of take that energy that we shouldn't be, because I'm probably one of those people who eat it all the time.
So anything that takes a long time to digest. So the thing is that anything fresh has enzymes in it. The benefit to that means if we're eating a piece of fresh fruit or a vegetable, and if we're not cooking it, that food already has the enzymes within it. So it has its own energy to digest itself, and it doesn't take our body's energy to make to break it down to make more energy. It's only, so if here's your energy level and you eat a piece of fruit, it's only going to do this. It's not going to do this. If we eat a piece of chicken at the wrong time, okay, so we don't want to snack on chicken, because here's our energy level. Now we eat a piece of chicken, it's going to take the body's energy, because that's a dead food. It does not have any enzymes in it. So it's going to take your body's enzymes to digest the chicken, and then in a few hours, you're gradually going to start to get some energy out of the food you ate. The point is, depending on your activity, when you're digesting that food, have you been brought up to where you were before, or did you go beyond that point? So when you do a fruit, you're always going to be on top of that. You're always going to be adding energy. So when you snack, if you snack on the certain foods at the right time, again, that's about learning what to eat when, then you're going to be stacking energy on top of your energy, not taking your body's energy to make more energy.
So those darn beef jerky things that I eat is not going to be very good, right?
If you go in between motos, or you're going from a practice or a qualifier to a moto.
How about just sitting on the couch and watching a moto?
It depends how excited you get. So what's the key? So to shorten this and give you as much information as I can, as quickly as I can, is really about the size of your gas tank, your internal gas tank. And surprisingly, your gas tank is your liver. The liver is really involved in more than 2,000 functions in your body. It's directly responsible for 500. So the liver does a lot of things that we're not aware of, but it's tied to very much, like definitely tied to metabolism, but most importantly, it's tied to glucose stores. And I think everybody kind of knows that we only have so much glucose in the body that we tap to for energy before the body has to try to, once we deplete that, to try to be making more. And that's why we need to be eating the food and doing different things to keep replenishing that glucose, so that we keep having either steady energy or accelerated energy, whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. So how do we get the biggest gas tank possible? So what the liver is doing, one of its main things that it does is that it's a filter. So it's filtering all the things that you are doing. So within, not only in your diet, but also your lifestyle. Now, when I say lifestyle, I'm also going to be including history, and meaning almost like medical history, meaning if you've gotten sick, and we've all, we have viruses, colds, where we get in contact with bacteria, whatever it is, as the body's fighting those things off, the liver is always filtering those things, and it doesn't want to put certain particles and certain things back in the bloodstream, so it stores it within itself. So if we can just picture that, let's say this is the size of our liver, and year after year we just keep like accumulating stuff, and it starts to fill up. And so if this is the original size of our gas tank, but now we start storing different toxins, if we eat food with lots of preservatives in them and things that the body's not flushing out, like if we're just really doing it in excess, eating bad food, all of these things are going to slowly like steal away the space of where our glucose stores should be. So the cleaner we make our liver, the larger our gas tank could be, or the more glucose stores we can have. So then we have a chance of having more sustained energy if we have a bigger gas tank. So one of the things I will mention, there's various things you can do, but one of the simplest things you can do is do lemon water in the morning. It's just a small glass of water, half of a fresh lemon, not the little fake lemons that looks, little plastic thing that looks like a lemon. We need the actual real lemon, and just squeeze half of it into a little bit of water, however much to your liking, and drink that. And if you do that first thing in the morning before you eat anything, that's going to start to allow the liver to flush things out in a gentle manner. So it's sort of like a daily detox, but a very, very mild thing that's happening, allowing your liver to cleanse. If you're able to do it real early in the morning, maybe as immediately as soon as you wake up, and the longer that you delay eating any food, it will continue to cleanse. As soon as you consume food, it's going to stop, and it's going to start processing food. So as long as you can get a little bit of time in the morning, you're gonna get that little bit of flush, and it's gonna start to cleanse the liver in a very gentle way and increase that storage area. So that's one of the ways that we can utilize something really simple to increase our energy. So just understand that it is about your liver. That's where it's coming from. So see what else I can tell you. So the cleaner the liver, the higher your glucose stores, and the more energy you're going to have. There's also
So
three
basically,
areas.
like one bottle of this, I'm sorry, Deborah, and then a half of a lemon for one bottle of water would be good.
Yeah, or you can use less water. It doesn't, if you don't like the taste of lemon, you're probably going to have to dilute it more, but you don't really need a lot of water. You just want to just get that lemon in, you know. So like when I do mine in the morning, I'm only doing, I don't know what that might be, 6 ounces or so. Would they have a lemon in it?
The water is just basic kind of as a transport mechanism to get it down to your liver and let it work. Yep. Got it.
So that's a real simple thing that anybody can do. And you can do one at night as well. I mean, if you're working out, you got your routine happening, it's also set you up for nighttime where all that fun stuff is happening when we're sleeping. So we can also do one before bedtime as well. There's also 3 areas of the body that store energy. So we learn a little bit about that too. I can't, that's a kind of lengthy and deep and kind of deep subject. But we have 3 areas of the body where we store energy. That's like our head area, our chest area, and our abdomen. So things like your exposure to sun, walking barefoot on the ground, in the sand, the dirt. If it's cold, like now it's the winter time, you can soak your feet in like a small tub of Epsom salt. All of these things are going to pick up negative ions. So when we walk barefoot, we're picking negative ions up from the ground. This is actually called energy hacking. And there's a list of probably 15 different energy hacking things. Anyone can Google it. You can find stuff on the internet. But one of the simplest things you can do, take a 15-20 minute walk when it is nice out, barefoot, get your feet, that's why we love the beach. That's why everybody usually feels so good at the beach. It's because we're actually picking up all of these negative ions from the seawater, from the sand, and that's what makes us feel really good. But we can, when it's cold out, we can substitute by putting some Epsom salt in just a little bit of water and just soak your feet 15 minutes, and it'll pretty much do the same thing. Let's see, what else? So I did want to talk a little bit about Epstein-Barr virus. I think that's also a subject that if we're in motocross, we especially of late, we've heard more of it, where riders are diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus. And when you are, it's, especially for someone in motocross, especially if they're in the middle of their supercross season or motocross season, it's a real hard thing to overcome, because if anyone has had it and has experienced it, you just have no energy. You're just so depleted, and the only thing that really helps is rest. And how do you rest if you have a race every weekend? So it's very difficult to overcome, but there are ways and things to do, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to educate, because I don't think a lot of this information is really out there about how the Epstein-Barr virus actually works. And sometimes we have that kind of the symptoms of Epstein-Barr virus, but we would do blood work or whatever, and we don't find the Epstein-Barr virus, so they rule it out. There is a very close condition that's very similar to Epstein-Barr virus, and that's called adrenal fatigue. And many athletes have adrenal fatigue. Most of them don't know they have adrenal fatigue. But when you get it, it's just like having Epstein-Barr virus. Sometimes it's diagnosed as that. I don't know if that's a misdiagnosis or not. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But what I want to talk to you about is, what do you do to avoid that? So when you're training and especially if it's, extreme training like motocross, you have to keep your adrenal glands or your body fueled. So it's very important to eat something every hour and a half. The food actually helps all that adrenaline that is flowing into the bloodstream. And of course, if you're eating all the right things, like when you want energy, you're going to be eating mostly vegetables. We suggest maybe 8 servings of vegetables a day, 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day. Those are the foods. Those are energy foods. So we want to make sure we're eating the right thing. And if we are feeling ill, it is very important to take out. Everyone knows that sugar is not our friend, but besides sugar, dairy and eggs are 2 things that almost all viruses love. So it's like some of their favorite food, especially cheddar cheese for some reason. So when we're feeling sick, we're feeling ill, of course, we want to remove the sugar. We want to remove all dairy. Especially, we want to make sure no cheese. And I don't consider eggs dairy, but eggs is another thing that viral components love. These are both 2 things that in any type of lab in the old days, they would use eggs to grow stuff in petri dishes. So we want to keep away from those 2 foods for sure. But what happens is when we have this excess adrenaline always being pumped into the bloodstream, adrenaline is also a virus's friend, especially Epstein-Barr virus. So you're feeding that virus. You're not really giving your body a chance to fight it off or suppress it. So if you're eating those foods, you're actually increasing your chances of your body leaning in that direction. So anytime you're feeling ill with anything, even if you don't know what it is, one of the best things to do is to start omitting those foods and making sure you're not eating them. In the middle of a Supercross season, I would even go to making some suggestions or options of possibly not eating eggs in the morning. But again, I'm not. That's just it's just an opinion, and it's from the data that I see. I think it's a good suggestion. It's a good option to explore. Again, I'm not a dietitian and I'm not a doctor, but these are things to just explore and research on your own if you'd like, or try it on your own and see how you feel. I always think that that's the best thing to do. Any information you hear anywhere is just apply it, especially if it's food. You're not really going to harm yourself. Just try it and just be aware of how you feel. That's pretty much what I wanted to make sure I covered. I really want to give us enough time to take some questions.
Some questions. I'm going to go ahead and if you have I'm going to unmute everyone. And if you have any questions, go ahead and jump in and feel free to. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
I've got a quick. Was somebody, Bryce? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you say to eat every hour and a half when you are dealing with Epstein-Barr virus or adrenal fatigue, but what about when you're not? When you're just training?
Yes, that's the point I was making. Is so when you're training, you have that adrenaline always in the bloodstream. And so when you're eating, that is going to lessen the impact of that high volume of adrenaline in your bloodstream. So when you're eating, and it's not like eating huge amounts of food, just something that helps.
All right. Well, I mean, when you're healthy and training and like you're good, like as far as eating throughout the day, hour and a half?
Yeah, every hour and a half, 2 hours, something. You know, a piece of fruit, an apple, a banana, some raw honey. There's lots of different small things to snack on.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question, Deborah, and this was about like kind of eating between motos. I was hanging out with the pro rider a couple of years ago in his rig, and his wife was fixing him avocados. Number one, what does avocados do for us? And number two, can you suggest maybe any other foods or things to eat in between motos?
Yeah, so when
you just hold these buttons.
in the old school method, you know, we always talked about carbo loading. Just unfortunately, carbs, it's not eating a plate of pasta the night before a race. So we kind of twisted carbs, like we're really talking complex carbs. So an avocado is great because it has that carbohydrate impact. It's a good quality carbohydrate. It's alive. It's got its enzymes. So again, we're adding energy, and it has, you know, very unique blend of fats, and that's another part of, you know, people have heard about the keto diet, right? You know, I'm not a fan of any one particular diet. Like I said, I think that there are certain body types, certain diets work. With the avocado, you've got that really good fat content, and as long as you have a body's metabolism that digests fats very well, that's not a bad choice. But what if you're not really metabolizing fats very well? That might not have the impact you would like it to have. So anything that's fresh, so anything that's alive, things that are not cooked, are the best choices to do that stuff in between motos. So an avocado is great, and like I said, any types of fruits, any types of vegetables, especially if you can keep them fresh and not cook them, that's the best thing to do. If you don't like fresh broccoli, whatever, for whatever reason, and you want to, you know, lightly steam it or whatever, that's fine, because it's still better than eating things that are going to completely rob the body of, or that are difficult to digest. We know anything heavy that's going to weigh the body down in between motos. We want very fast reacting foods. So we want to keep it mostly in fruits and vegetables.
Okay. All right. Who else has a question? Go ahead and jump in. Anybody? I've got another question. And this is about eating the night before a race, Deborah. A lot of times, you know, there's a lot of talk about carbohydrates and eating a lot of carbs the night before. Is that something like a, you know, big plate of spaghetti the night before a race? Is that myth or is that good?
In my opinion, and from what I see from working with the athletes, we first of all, it's not even part of anyone's diet plan. So we do pastas, but the pastas are all either bean pastas or legumes, or, you know, like lentils. So the actual pasta is not made from wheat. We don't do wheat, numerous reasons. But so so we don't really change what we do before race day, because we just do the right thing every day. So that we don't really have a special thing that we do the night before. We're just always eating correctly all week long. And the night before a race is no different than any other night. So we don't really change it up and don't really load up on anything. But if someone felt that a need to do that, because I don't know, for whatever reason, we wouldn't do a wheat pasta. We would do something sort of, you know, we lean more towards, for texture reasons, for like a lentil or a bean pasta, which now when you go into supermarkets, there's a big push on all the plant-based stuff. So it's not hard to find alternatives to wheat.
Okay. Well, now I know why I was fading in my long races as an amateur a long time ago. Other questions? I know some of you have to have some kind of question out there.
I got one more.
All right, go for it. Bryce, you're up.
All right. So for races where it's like long distance and you're on the bike for over 2.5 to 3.5 hours, what kind of energy sources would you put in for that, since you're going to be going so long?
Let me give you some context to Bryce's question. Bryce is a top finisher at Baja 1000 this year. His team finished third, and Bryce is the man. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, like cyclists that, you know, are on bikes for a long time, like, so if you really need to like tack to something like there are a lot of really good, gels, energy gels on the market. That's okay. We like tap into like raw honey, and you can get them in little packets too, where you just rip the top off and just, it's not a lot. You don't need a lot, because you don't want to be crashing from the sugar. You want to kind of regulate it a little bit.
Okay.
So, that'd be something to tap to. I don't know if you're able to like really, do a piece of fruit or something like that. And I think one of those packs are probably pretty easy to kind of, incorporate and probably be able to do it.
So like do it right before I get on the bike, because as soon as I'm on the bike, there's no hands off except for like Camelback.
Okay.
The Bryce is like 100 miles wide open in the middle of the night in the desert. I don't think he wants to take his hands off.
Okay. Is there, are you allowed to put anything in the water?
Yeah, you can mix it. I've mixed, before I found out that it made me crash, I put soda in there when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
And they gave me a little energy spurt when I needed it, but it also crashed.
Yeah, there are different things that you can do. Like Trace Minerals is a company that makes really good hydration formulas. Why I like them is that there's not a lot of sugar in it, or added sugars. It's whatever's naturally in it, but they have tons of minerals and B vitamins and things that, are in most of your energy drinks and things like that. So, anything that you can find that will give you because you want a little bit of carb, there's even some powders you can put, but those would be things that I would play around with, like get a bunch of stuff and just test it out and see how you feel.
Okay. And then arm pump. What about that? Foods.
Arm pump is a loaded question.
I know there's a lot of things that go into play with it.
Yeah, it could, because not every, there's many different things that cause it. So, it can be something simple from just your positioning, of just how you're positioning your hands, your handlebars or whatever, to things like mindset. It's usually tension that's creating it. Yeah, so that's a hard one to answer without really knowing the athlete like really well. And I usually if someone comes to me and they're struggling, I'll watch them ride like that whole week. I'll watch them on the bike, and because I want to see what's actually going on when it's happening, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Too many factors involved in answering that like directly like that.
Yeah, no, I know I wasn't going to be an all-in-one answer. I was thinking maybe like more of an oxygenation for the blood kind of food, or like green leafy foods.
Yeah, well, beet juice is great.
Beet juice?
Beet juice.
What? Say that again, Deborah.
Beet, B-E-E-T.
Beet juice. Oh, okay. I thought you said peaches, but yeah, beet. Okay.
My New York accent, I know. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Hey, well, we're at the end. Does anybody have any last minute questions for Deborah before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What can we do if we want to get more extensive into this, as far as maybe getting a set plan from you? Do you offer anything online, or you got to come to ClubMx?
No, we definitely work outside of ClubMx. And yeah, it would be just contacting me. I don't know if Tim, if you want to follow up with my contact information in an email to everyone who attended, or what your plans were, but yeah.
You can give out your email address real quick, and I'll also send it out. But go ahead and give your email address out.
Okay. It's mxsportsinfo, INFO, at AOL.com.
mxsportsinfo at AOL.com?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and also if any of you have questions for Deborah, if you lose her email address, you just can't find her, you can come to me as well. You can email me at tim@coachwherever.com, and I can help you out as well. I know we've got a combination of some people who are on my mailing list, and then some of people who are in my coaching program and the motocross mental performance coach program. So it's cool that all of you were here today and join us. And this is being recorded, so I'm going to put this up on YouTube. So, and I'll send you the link at a later time. So if you ever want to go back and watch it again, feel free. Also, let me know if you like this, if you wanted any additional training, either from Debra. I was also thinking of approaching Gary Simmix, who everybody knows he's a 500cc champion, and maybe he may want to do something. Would any of you guys be open to that? Maybe having Gary do a half-hour kind of riding technique or some things. I don't know if that's something that's interested.
Yeah, any information that anyone wants. Any information that anyone wants to give, I think people are willing to listen.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll talk to Gary. I haven't brought it up to him, but I certainly will. And I hope to do this again in the future. Thanks, everyone, for your time. It's cool. Let me know what you thought about it. Send me an email, tim@coachweber.com. And, yeah, I'll help you out any way I can. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Debra.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.